for the slide delay. Let's see if we can share the screen. Yeah. The slide? Yes. So I hope you can see the presentation now. So basically, well, we have like 25 minutes to go through what's CROF all about, which may not be enough for all the questions and the code, go through each and every one of the details. But what I thought would be interesting to start with is to have just a brief overview of what we saw a couple of weeks ago from Francisca. So basically how, if you remember and were able to participate, she shared a bit of self-help strategy, also our vision and how our products fit within this vision, and also some examples of the goals that we have for this year. So I'll just start briefly with that. So how CROF actually fits in all of this that you saw in Francisca's presentation earlier. So we have the services and data, different sections. So as you can see, we have the opportunities there, some strategy elements, we have sustainability impacts, reporting, etc. And as the last one, the light blue shaded block, you'll see investments in climate change. And that's what CROF actually stands for externally. So internally we talk about CROF, but for our clients, it's about investments in climate change. And from there on the right-hand side, you see
I cannot hear you anymore, Hannah. And I don't know if I'm the only one.
No. It's cut. Absolutely.
Yeah, I also can't hear anything.
Okay. I don't know if they know that we don't hear.
But it says Sarah's on mute.
Okay.
But she's muted as well, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. So maybe that's why.
Well, that sounds
okay,
good.
guys. Why you had to tell us earlier?
Well, you were only muted for like a second.
Yeah, at the beginning it was okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start again.
So yeah, we just heard Diana saying like, I don't know if they can know that we can't hear them, but yeah.
No, but you were only gone for like 30 seconds. We hear what you said until like internally we call it CROF, but to the outside we don't say that. We still heard that.
Okay. I thought that from the beginning, like you were not hearing anything. Okay, well then.
So thank you, Hannah, for your presentation.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks, everyone. So yeah, basically, yeah, the services and data and how CROF fits within. So the investments in climate change section of services and data offering, it's described on the right-hand side of this slide. So there you can see some familiar concepts of potential avoided emissions or some green bond advisory, etc., and some a bit newer ones. So the physical climate risk assessments and SDG impact assessment, for example. But yeah, these are the key topics that we currently work on, or let's say we're developing most of these, and also wish to work with clients in the near future on these topics.
Sorry, Hannah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question, or the question is maybe at the end?
Please go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So the GHG accounting, where is it? Where does it fall? Sorry, just to
yeah. So basically, I said these are some of the topics that we work on currently and wish to work on. But the GHG accounting for us in CROF is not probably the core anymore as it was previously or before. So now basically of course the corporate side is within.
Now it's in CROF. Okay.
Yeah, and when it comes to investment portfolios, what we do still work on is investment portfolios when it's private equity, for example. However, as said, it's not the core or our key offering anymore. But for corporates,
Okay.
yeah, it's within CROF.
Thank you.
So I'll just move forward to just briefly mention what Franziska also said, that how is our strategy now defined. So basically, it's about being a holistic service provider, but also to grow a key set of specific offerings, right? So these descriptions relate closely to what we've been working on within CROF recently. So as the first point, we say we want to have a couple of standardized products, so these door opener products. And this is what we had before with CNI offering, and now we're developing something to basically have a new product which could work as a door opener for then hopefully for open opportunities also for follow-up mandates. So this is what we're doing within the physical and basically the climate risk screening product. And then the second point would then be just to provide more detailed and bespoke advisory services to the financial sector clients. And then the research and development element, which has been fairly strong since the last couple of months. And on the bottom of the slide, you will see an example of a goal for this year. So basically, what we would like to have, or what is the goal for this year for CROF, is also to have this physical climate risk assessment tool running, and to have that tested with a couple of clients, and hopefully we'll get there and get some positive results from that fairly soon. And again, this is a bit of how also the CROF offering is structured. So we do have these standardized products. So in this case, the main product will be the physical climate risk screening tool. And then from there, we can develop a bit more non-standardized elements and products around that. But also, of course, we'll work on the other topics as mentioned in the first slide. So, for example, SDGs, we can also do still potential avoided emissions. We do advisory, fairly bespoke related to green bonds, etc. Some TCFD related elements also, and we can develop inputs for reporting, etc. So it's an array of different things, but I also feel that probably many of you might be interested in seeing kind of how these actually then translate into the different products within CROF. So here just I just put quickly. It's not like this is the absolute truth, but yeah, it's like just to maybe help us visualize a bit of where these different topics fit within kind of what's about risk, what's about impact, and then what's standardized and what's then more bespoke. So on the lower left-hand corner, you'll see the top-down portfolio climate risk assessment. So that should basically be our future door opener product. So very standardized, very fast, also economic in pricing. focusing on identifying and measuring risks and therefore also opportunities. And then this climate risk assessment could be further developed, or let's say we can provide a more bespoke, more detailed analysis called hotspot analysis, and then we can go into more of these deep dive climate risk assessments if client is interested in more detail. And then if you go towards the right-hand side, so a bit more about impact, so not only identifying the risks, but also when we talk about impact, maybe just a bit of the positive side of things. So for example, potential avoided emissions, we can do SDG impact assessments. Also, what I mentioned about green bonds, currently what we do with green bonds is very bespoke. It's also more on the impact side than the risk side. And then within these kind of two extremes, yeah, there you can find several things. So you can talk about TCFD reporting or 2-degree alignment. Also, still we have some carbon footprinting, of course, and then basically these more strategic elements. So advisory on what could be relevant for an investor to look at when thinking about climate change or SDG strategies. And these products can basically be offered to different financial sector and financial market actors. And what's interesting is this kind of these differ a bit in terms of what type of assets we can look at. So if we look at fixed income, or if we look at equity, private or public equity, if we look at individual companies or real assets, etc. So whatever you think of, could this type of analysis or assessment be applied to a certain type of investment portfolio? It varies a bit, and some of these elements are still under development. So hopefully many of the products can be at least applied to equity and fixed income. Those would be the most straightforward ones. So yeah, maybe that's just kind of the overview of what we have on our desks at the moment. So maybe just to briefly mention that we don't have so many ongoing projects at the moment. We have some research project with Climate Kick going on. I think the 3 at the moment. Then we have something on green bonds, and also some test cases with the physical climate risk screening. However, the efforts in the last months, as many of you may know, have been mainly focusing on the product development side and business development side. So any questions at this point?
Well, not only one comment on the graph that you were showing previously.
Yeah.
I was just wondering why the investment carbon footprint will be, or footprinting will be of less impact than potential avoided emissions. And I'm saying this, maybe it should be switched, because potential avoided emissions is a secondary consequence of an action that someone else has developed.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, investment carbon footprinting will be something more like bespoke.
Yes.
Something specific for where your money is being allocated. So I think maybe this is being mapped differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment, and I think maybe just there the kind of logic was to also to have a bit more forward-looking. So okay, it's something that is, as you said, potential and not probably that certain. But yeah, I think that's a good comment that that would need to be integrated in the graph. So this is basically just for us to internally, and also for our, to get an idea of more or less what type of products we have. Great. But yeah, then I mean, I have like 5 to 10 minutes left, so I think I just added here some slides on what we normally present on these products. So I would think that maybe you'd be most interested in hearing something about the climate risk screening.
Definitely.
So I will just focus on that, and as said, these presentations are available, and you can then go and look at them in more detail if you're interested in the other products or anything like that. So so let's focus on the risk screening then. So basically, this slide just outlines a bit of why we're doing this. So basically, we currently consider there being certain challenges related to physical risks and how they can, or also transition risks, and how they can be measured for an investment portfolio. So it's a bit different when you look at a single company. You can go to very much detail. You can look at the physical asset level of things and analyze the risks in very much detail. But then when you look at an investment portfolio where you may have thousands of holdings from all sectors in all geographies, it becomes a bit more complicated in the sense that there's not so much data available. Also, not too many metrics have been established that would be commonly used by the sector so far. And also, yeah, it becomes hugely time-consuming, I guess. So if you would need to go into very much detail for each and every one of the holdings when there might be 7,000 of them, yeah, it's a challenge. Let's put it that way. So how do we think about it? How do we think about this, and what do we believe that is the solution, or could be the solution in the current market? Is that we can provide a top-down screening for investment portfolios. This meaning that we basically look at a wide variety of holdings and their exposure to climate risks across different sectors and also across different geographies. So this allows us to be able to cover huge portfolios, of course, on a more top-down level, and not so detailed as per company we could probably do, but this still yeah, provides us the opportunity to actually give the client a brief overview of their portfolio and where the actual risks are, let's say, mostly present. And what could a client get from this? Well, yeah, they will actually get a comparable risk metric, which is already an improvement on what's currently out there in the market. So our competitors, many of them currently present the risks related to investment portfolios on a qualitative level, so high, medium, low. And our risk tool basically provides a numerical risk score. Yeah, and these inputs can also be used as part of the famous TCFD reporting. So that's one of the motivation factors we see for this type of products. And then just how does this slide then relate to what was mentioned before? So this is exactly the type of division between standardized and bespoke. So we have the portfolio screening, which is fast and fairly, let's say, easy to do in the sense that it only requires the client to provide us with the list of holdings they have within the portfolio, and we can then do the mapping of those holdings as well as the risk screening. So from a client perspective, this should be fairly easy in the sense that it doesn't require too much engagement. Yeah, it's fast and economic. And this is basically the core product we have been developing, and then it can be further detailed in a hotspot or deep dive analysis. Okay, so this is probably something that you can then go back to and look a bit of what it is that we include as inputs in these models. And so we'll look at different scenarios. We'll look at different timelines, etc. So these basically can be applied to, let's say, different temperature changes. If a client wishes to see that, okay, what it is that my portfolio will look like or the risk will be in 3-degree world or 2-degree world, or maybe their investment horizon is towards 2050 or something like that. So this model actually allows us to have a continuous timeline and look at these different points based on the client preference. Then, yeah, the risk modeling is described there a bit in more detail. And then, well, if you have any questions on that, we can go into more detail. But I think we're kind of short on time, so maybe we can have a different session where we actually involve also Nico and kind of explain in more detail for those who are interested in what goes into this model, how it is done, what's the methodology, etc. But now I think it's enough to comment then on that we have our internal model that we apply. So it's basically developed based on publicly available information. So we haven't bought any huge data sets to insert into the model, but it's something we think is clever. We think it's applicable to so many different sectors and can be easily improved over time. And yeah, I said it's a model which is flexible and thus I think very easily applicable to different type of portfolios. And yeah, the output is, again, it can be the risk score for the client, so per portfolio, per sector, per holding. We also provide a report on that, on each and every one of the holdings, the risk scores for different scenarios or different temperature changes, and graphs around, visuals around what the results look like. So I will just jump into, maybe we can look at this. So I'll just show you very quickly how our current first version of the tool looks like. So this is a sample portfolio that, well, a real example from a Finnish pension fund that we did recently, and it basically shows results in map format, so you can actually see how the risk is distributed across different geographies, but also per sector, and you can click through the different details on these maps or the bar graphs, and you can also see the different individual holdings and how they compare against each other on the left-hand side. So this is something that has been developed based on the work that Nico and the team has done over the last few months, and now it finally looks nice and has a visual presentation. But basically, you can click these through and see, for example, the percentage damage that let's say that the portfolio holdings in certain countries are exposed to, Or you can then, for example, go into different sectors and look at the actual results per sector. So you can see from here, for example, that energy or material sector are the ones that are mostly exposed to, or most exposed to risk. And we also provide the visuals for the client to actually understand to what sectors they should focus on as the first step. And then, for example, as part of this analysis, it was basically identified that as the material sector is of relatively high risk within this portfolio and also has a relatively high weight within the portfolio, this could be one that they should start looking at as a first step. Then, for example, financial sector has important weight in the portfolio, so it's more than 30%. However, the risk is relatively low within this sector, but then you can go and look at the actual holdings within this sector and go into more detail about probably identifying which holdings within one sector are less exposed, which are more exposed to climate risk than others. So I mean, I think we're out of time, so I just wanted to share this this first version with you, and yeah, I definitely would require more time to explain all the details, but it's where we've gotten so far, and as said, we've had the first test client, and so far the feedback has been positive. So yeah, let's see, and hopefully we can get some more test cases in the near future and develop this further. We have any time for questions?
Yeah, of course we do. Actually, the slot was planned for 1 hour. So
oh, really?
I mean, the plan was to have half of the time with your presentation and then some like weekly news or monthly news.
Oh, okay.
But there are not too many of them, so we can continue. But I'm so happy that you organize another session where you get more into the details.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really nice to see all what you can do with Tableau. Actually, as a company, for information, we want to use it. We are considering using it more, and I'm deviating a bit from the topic. But yeah, just for information, we might start generating some reports through Tableau. For example, financial reports, all what we currently have on Antarctica, like the budget cockpit. We're considering to move it to Tableau. So it's.
What is it? Or is it like a company that we know, or like is it another company that offers the service? Or
yeah, it's a service provider,
okay.
And that enables you to do a lot of data treatment, but you can actually show the data in a nice way.
Yes.
And you don't need to do much coding behind.
Yeah.
It's very user friendly.
Okay. Yeah. But do they then have like the ownership of this, like whatever they constructed there, kind of, right? Or then we can maybe, I mean, if this is like the tool that we're developing, then do they kind of have the ownership of that part?
I don't think so. No, I mean, the data is ours.
The data is ours, but then like the visualization of the data is theirs.
Yeah, that's the service they provide. But then, for example, for this case, now that we use Tableau, we cannot really share this, and login or access to with a client.
Okay.
To this, for example. So for the moment, it's for us. It's for us to also show some visualizations to the client.
Yeah.
And also for the CAMs to help them communicate what we can do. But at this point, for example, we can, share login.
Yeah. So the idea would be to take the idea from here and take it to our own tool at some point.
Let's see.
And how does Bloomberg fit into the offer? Where does it intervene?
It goes into the mapping part. So when we get a portfolio from the client, they will basically send us the tickers or the ISINs and then the list of holdings that they have within the portfolio. But we then need to look at that and actually identify what are the sectors and what are the geographies included into that portfolio. So that's where Bloomberg comes in, and we actually, it makes it a lot easier and faster for us to identify certain sectors. For example, the geographic exposure can be defined, for example, based on the revenue. So in this case, for example, if a company is based in Finland, maybe they still do have, or a big share of their revenues may come from elsewhere.
Yeah.
And these are thus, exposed to climate risk. So the Bloomberg tool or any other mapping tool helps us to do that type of exercise in a more, in a faster way.
Yeah, I think there's huge synergies that this can have with CROF. I'm sure you've already discussed with Charlie that, I mean, because probably those assets could be, or those companies could be changed to assets, and we could do the same kind of mapping per company and their assets.
Yeah, the challenge with the more detailed analysis is that you need to have then the location of these facilities or physical assets. So if, for example, a corporate or company can provide you with that information, I mean, for some sectors, we can find locations for a certain type of assets, but not for everything and not for all companies. So
we've done some manual mock-ups, like me translating the actual street addresses to coordinates. Bloomberg terminal.
Yeah, it helps to do some of that work, and some of it I think will still need to be an approximation or based on engagement with the client. But in these cases, if we talk about public equity, for example, the client and huge portfolios, then we can't really count on so much on having that engagement with the client. So we more rely on what's publicly available. So
And what about the error margins? Do we have to disclose, also for the CROF offering, we've been thinking about that should we put some disclaimer into already in the proposals that this analysis will be done and it will have a certain error margin, so that, I mean, if someone uses them as a basis for decision making in companies, I mean, we can't be responsible for them not putting a plant in India if we identify that it's a high risk area in terms of water shortage, for example.
No, that's a clear issue. Disclaimers are always needed, I guess, because also we won't be saying that we're giving them, let's say, investment advice. We're not a company that works on that space. So we provide the analysis, we provide these, let's say, data points or metrics that they can then use internally. We can suggest how these could be applied or how these could be included in their internal decision making. But there is a huge disclaimer in that sense that this is the model that we use, this is the methodology that we use, and these results have been, the results are based on that. So
another scenario can give another result.
And how have the clients reacted to our offer? Because I feel the financial industry is not necessarily so much long-term driven. There is a lot of short-term drive. So how do they react to this offer?
I think what many are looking for is to have an actual dollar or euro number on the risk, which is still something that is very, I would say, also risky to measure, and based on so many assumptions that's why we, for example, chosen the risk metric. So it's something that it's exposure to risk and translated into let's say potential damage that could happen. So without saying that it's a dollar or euro amount, but that's basically what they would be looking for actually. So that's very, very typical for the financial sector. But also there are, of course, more longer term investors such as pension funds, and that's where I think there is more interest. So the interest is actually when you look at more of longer, medium long-term horizon, or then also many clients are driven by the fact that they want to comply with the TCFD recommendations. They want to include scenario analysis, forward-looking analysis into their risk assessment, and therefore also strategic decisions, etc. So I would say that it's a bit of both. So the difficulties and the challenges have been exactly that how do I do this when I have such a big portfolio? The competitors are offering very detailed analysis, and we have very relevant competitors that do detailed work. However, again, it's more time consuming, it's a lot more expensive. So I think it's also been fairly positively received that we can provide something on a top-down approach, which really isn't there at the moment in the market. So yeah, that's basically the key, let's say, selling point that we have at the moment. So yeah, it's a clever approach. It's based on something that is scientifically also recognized, the model, the scenarios, etc. So based on that, I think we have something strong, and it's something that can be priced economically and provided within a couple of weeks. So I think that's a clear advantage.
So apart from the pilot stage environment, do you have an idea if the company will try to launch publicly the product, or what's the marketing strategy behind it?
Yeah, it's a bit of it's been, let's see how fast and how well the tool develops, and then what is the reaction from the market, the clients, etc., and develop based on that. So now we've tested with one client. We'll look into doing that with some others. We'll have a webinar which is available to external audience, so that clients can also join and see how the tool works. There can be also more like soft communications, as like blog posts or something more detailed as case studies, etc. So it's a bit of also building our offering and putting our offering out there. So it's something new. Many people don't even know that we actually work on the physical risk space. So it's it's a process, and but I believe that with a couple of relevant clients and also relevant communication, we'll have a good start towards the hopefully autumn and early winter.
Do we have any other questions from people outside of Mexico? We're entering the matrix. No questions?
No, I just to add that things like quite good work, and I'm curious to hear like more details. So let me know if another session it's going to be prepared by Nico or someone, because I feel that it is so many variables to take into consideration that, I mean, just I'm curious about how you manage to make it broad enough and strong, still strong and robust.
Yeah, so we'll have the one webinar on July 11th, and then we also need to organize a session internally, that's for sure. And just also on the what's behind the model. I mean, it's been a process, and we are fairly confident about it at the moment. But of course, there are many things that still need to be improved and can be improved. A lot of elements that can be added, and to get a more detailed results and yeah, stronger methodology, etc. So it's still an ongoing process, but yeah, I think it now starts to be in the phase that it can be communicated, it can be presented, and also shared with some initial clients.
And Hannah, the money to develop this tool, did it come from Climate Kick, or it was South Pole investment?
Well, it's been a bit of both. So it's been the research funding from Climate Kick, but also internal product development. So it's been a mixture of both. So it's been something that we have, we wanted to invest some time and resources into, and the Climate Kick project basically runs until, I guess, end of September, for example.
Hannah.
Yes.
Pablo here.
Hey, Pablo.
I wanted to ask you, one of the big troubles that I had when doing Big Chain tool was the property of the data. And so it was who is the owner of the databases that you use for doing the calculation, and actually once you process them and generate a result, who is the owner of this? Yeah. So is this in the plan, or how does it? That's the second question. Is there a deliverable already that can be sent? So what would be eventually delivered to a client? So is it a report? Does the client have the opportunity to interact with the tool? How is this?
For the second question, the client will get a report, and you can already see the bottom report. I can share with you, and it basically provides the high-level results and some details per holding, but it gives an example of what the client would get. Currently, we wouldn't be sharing the tool as you saw the Tableau version. We wouldn't be sharing that with the client, but it's under let's say, hopefully in a further stage. I think it would be interesting for a client to actually be able to play around with numbers. I mean, the results are exactly the same, but maybe the fact that you could actually get access yourself would be positive. But that's still something that would come at a later stage. And the first question was around, I think I missed the first part, but it was about basically like who owns the data and etc.
Yes. Where does the data come from? Who is the owner? And what happens when you process the data and you generate something from that? Yeah. Is this your data? Is this your client's data? Who's this? Is this also the whole methodology? Is that what Mariano has been working with in the last months? We have been figuring out some things there.
Yeah. So basically, the inputs that go into the model are publicly available information. So let's say, product as it is the model, and how we interpret and how we turn that information into a risk metric. So that's what our product really is. What we provide to the client is then the risk metric. So that is basically a data point that will help the client to distinguish between different holdings within one sector or across the complete portfolio, to identify holdings or sectors that are more or less exposed to climate risks. So basically, we take publicly available information, we run through it, our model, and the client gets the risk metrics. And then what the client, I mean, the methodology side is very interesting, and of course, there are a lot of questions about it. So we do share with the clients after they have signed an NDA. We can share with them a description of the methodology, which goes into a bit more detail of what we actually do, how we do the calculations. But yeah, it's a bit of a, we don't want to reveal everything. So it's a bit of a situation where we need to be convincing and expert enough to wow them, but not share all our the core model behind it. And as per Mariana's work on deforestation risks, etc., I think that's something. I mean, it goes a lot more into detail. It considers many additional data points and information from these companies that basically not all companies report, for example, and we need to do some approximations there. And I think it's something that can be fed into the overall physical risk screening at a later stage. So I think that work will also be very valuable and hopefully can be somehow fitted into the overall results, or as adding on deforestation risks. That's that.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you. Your question at all?
Yes, absolutely.
No more questions?
Oh, just one. Who has reviewed the model?
Well, that's on the to-do list. So we're looking into different universities and let's say experts on the field of actual climate modeling. So one example would be the university in Zurich. So for example, someone from there to actually review and basically validate that what we're doing is good, is robust, and of course if there's any any comments, any suggestions, all of this is something that we need to consider. And as I said, it's been a process, and we started from something very basic and kind of all the time there has been additional elements and specifications added, etc. But yeah, that's where we now feel we're at a stage that we can actually ask for an external opinion or validation for the model. Yeah.
So are we launching this before being validated?
Well, I mean, at the moment it's a beta version. Also, we're not saying that it's fully developed. Also, it's something that we do communicate with the client that we can further develop in collaboration with them. And yeah, it's probably we'll try to get this as soon as possible. But yeah, I don't know if it's going to be within the next 3 weeks or not, to be honest. Yeah.
No more questions? No? Then thanks a lot, Hannah. That was really helpful. I was thinking maybe the Latam gathering would be a good moment to have some kind of workshop to really dive into the tool. And by then you should have sort of more consolidated products. And that could be also the opportunity to go through to check the other tools or the other products that you have developed. Yeah. Very good. So I'm going to stop the broadcast, but we can continue for